Hi everybody, welcome inside the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. It is time for our Steelers Roundtable. The Steelers losing in overtime to the Baltimore Ravens at Heinz Field yesterday, 26-23. Joining me today on our panel to break it all down, Charlie Batch, the former Steelers quarterback. Also, we have Bob Labriola, my good friend and contributor to Steelers.com, and former Steeler Merril Hoge. As Lab said, a lot of former players joining us today. The Steelers are sitting at 1-4, not where they want to be, but we will start with Mason Rudolph. As everybody knows, he suffered a concussion in the game yesterday, was taken to an area hospital. He was released last night. And guys, the good news, we saw him around the building today, and Devlin Hodges went in. So another quarterback change, not how it wanted to end. And I guess let's start, Merril, with you. Just what did you think whenever Devlin Hodges went in and how he was able to perform for the Steelers offense?
Well, I think the first thing that the fan has to remember, and you always have to remind yourself as a player, how many reps that he got to get prepared for that game. Okay, he may have got one. And that might have been, and everything else is a mental rep. So to watch how he really performed, I thought he had one errant throw, was that pick that he threw back across. And aside from that, the things that stood out to me the most is he threw the ball with anticipation. So in order to do that, usually you have to be a quick facilitator of decisions. He did that very well. So under the circumstances and the preparation he had, I thought he performed at a really an awesome level.
Charlie, a former quarterback, you've seen Devlin Hodges since rookie minicamp. What did you see from him?
I was impressed, and I really liked the way that he stepped in. And like Merril mentioned, the backup quarterback doesn't get many reps at all. And here he was able to step in middle of the third quarter and literally go out there and perform. Anticipated throws, and this was a guy who was looking to push the football down the field. And I think with all that being said, I really thought he helped his team.
Let me ask you this. Do you think the Steelers' game plan changed when he went in, or did they kind of stay with what they were already doing when Mason Rudolph was in?
I think they were staying with what they were doing. They were just trying to get the running game going. And when you look at what Hodges has been able to do up until this point, I thought he had a solid training camp. And the one thing I love with him is the fact that he's able to anticipate. He finds those passing lanes. He's short. He's not your average quarterback, but he doesn't have a lot of balls batted down at the line of scrimmage. And one thing, when you throw 15,000 yards in college, that doesn't happen by accident. So the guy can sling it.
Now, Labs, we don't know the state of Mason Rudolph. We know he is in the protocol. There is a number of steps he's going to have to take to get out of it. We don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback on Sunday in LA. What did you take away from Devlin Hodges' performance?
Well, I want to go a little bit more basic than these two guys even. I was impressed with no delay of game penalties. He ran the huddle, I thought, efficiently. I even saw him a couple of times during substitutions. He would step out of the huddle so that there were never 12 guys in there. He would wait to make sure that the guys coming in tapped out with the guys leaving so that there was no too many men in the huddle penalties. Little things like that I thought were impressive to me just in managing the position for a guy, who hadn't played at all in an NFL regular season game. And Charlie, as you know, the way Mike Tomlin runs his practices, the starter gets as many reps as he thinks he needs in practice to be ready, and then the backup gets the rest. And so, as you mentioned, how many snaps did he get in practice? It could have been fewer than 10 all week. So I was impressed with, beyond what you guys were talking about, his anticipation, his accuracy. He was decisive with where he wanted to go with the ball. He didn't do any of the little things wrong either that can lead to those 5-yard penalties that used to drive Bill Cowher absolutely insane.
Now, guys, in terms of the Steelers' defense, 5 sacks, 3 interceptions, and if I just told you those stats going into the game, you'd probably think, all right, for a Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers game, that's pretty good. Does this defense need to continue this type of performance to help carry this team with maybe this uncertainty with the quarterback position, Merril?
Well, I don't think there's any question. The first thing I always pops up to me when you look at a defense, how many snaps did they play? They played 80 snaps. Okay, I don't care how good a defense you are in this league. Offenses are good enough. They're going to score points on you. So, the offense has a responsibility to quit putting them in bad spots because those turnovers, are indicative. Unfortunately, they're indicative of the defense, and that is not fair. But I thought what they've done to improve in their run defense, the 5 linebackers that they employed, I thought was a great strategic plan. They're doing better on the back end and in their coverage matchups because people are exposing their linebackers in passing game and the safety. You know, they didn't do that as much, although they did get after them. That's still an area that they've got to get better at, that people are going to keep targeting until they can show that they can handle that.
And I think when you look back at this defense, the area of concern for me, they weren't creating a lot of turnovers. Now they're getting the sacks and the turnovers to go along with it. So that's playing winning football on the defensive side of the ball. It's just now getting to that point of complementing one another where the defense is creating the turnovers, the offense now has to convert that into touchdowns.
And the other thing against the Ravens came into this game the #1 ranked rushing offense both in yards per game and average per carry. The Steelers held them, I think it was 67, 68 yards under their average per game, almost 2.5 yards under their average per carry. And so we saw earlier this season, both against Seattle and against San Francisco, the Steelers had some issues with those two teams' running games. I thought that they did a decent job against the Ravens. The Ravens are going to run the ball. They're going to stick with it. Even if they don't have some success early, they're not the kind of a team that you can influence out of their running game, have them give up on it. And so the Ravens still had some yards, but nothing like they had been rolling up to this point in the season.
The one thing that I was pleased about, one thing you can't practice against is speed from your practice squad out here that you're trying to simulate. But Lamar Jackson, he really has another gear that you just cannot prepare for. Our defense were in pretty good situation, but unfortunately Jackson was able to slide through and create that separation, and I just thought they really did a nice job of containing Jackson based off what he did thus far coming into this game.
Lastly, was there anything else that stood out to you guys from the loss yesterday?
Well, I would say this, Devlin, everybody's going to focus on him coming in there. What allowed them to stay with some comfort place for him is they controlled the tempo of the game when he walked in. They ran the football with great efficiency, and that ultimately is, I think, the thing that stood out to me from an offensive line perspective. Up to this point, and maybe a little bit of the Bengal game, they don't win at the point of attack. They weren't the first part of the year. They did that really in this game in an efficient manner, and I think that has to keep up. If they're able to do that, then I don't care who your starting quarterback is. It's much easier to call plays at 2nd and 5 and 3rd and 2 than 2nd and 10 and 3rd and 9. And in the second half, they were able to control that environment, and that'll be a key for them to get back on a winning track.
Charlie?
I think for me, just looking at this game, if they don't turn the football over, they win. And I know that's something that we always talk about. Those key plays are the ones that stand out to me. I'm not concerned about the quarterback position at this point because Hodges, he's going to anticipate. The receivers now need to get their head around. Mm-hmm. If you remember, there's a stop route and a comeback route that Hodges threw, and he was on him out of the break. So those are the things that now he brings to the table if for whatever reason Mason is not able to play in the Charger game next week.
And what a lot of the players were talking about when Ben went down and Mason Rudolph first went in, we all have to pick up our game to help Mason Rudolph. Well, now I think they have to even take that a little bit further because Mason Rudolph, I think, was a little bit more experienced. At least he had been in the Steelers system for a year and around this particular group of players. Devlin Hodges is really, really green. And so I think that the guys, his teammates, have to really live what they talked about when Mason Rudolph took over and then take it to the next level.
All right, guys, we're going to take a short break. When we return, Merril hits the telestrator. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Devlin, do you feel like you played fearless?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I do each and every day. Come and compete and just let it hang loose and throw.
How quickly did you have to snap into it and get like ready to go out there and play? Like, how long did it take you to realize, like, okay, I processed what happened to him and this is what it means to me?
I mean, as soon as y'all saw him laying on the ground, I mean, I knew. I threw my headset down and ran and got my helmet. I didn't know how long he was going to be down for, and I was ready to go in, in 10 seconds or a minute or however long it took.
Good enough because we didn't win. We had a lot of chances to make plays that we gave up, and we didn't. We got to just make it a railroad track. We got to continue to build, and keep going forward.
All right, time to talk a lot about the Steelers' run defense. Merril and I are over at the Telestrator, and there was something you liked in terms of their game plan yesterday.
Yeah, they do 5 linebackers, and people go, why would you use 5 linebackers? Because the Ravens run the ball with such efficiency, and they're so good at it, they're going to run no matter what. The Steelers are like, we're going to counter you. We're going to take Vince Williams and make him a safety. And that's the first thing when I watched tape that really struck me is having 5 linebackers. But the effectiveness of it was really important. So standard here's your 4 linebackers usually. Well, here's Vince Williams, who becomes the safety, but he's their 5th linebacker. And I love what he does in this one. We call it a run blitz. But look at how quickly he attacks the line of scrimmage. The number 1 killer in the running game is penetration. You get that far into the backfield, here's the line of scrimmage, your runner is defined now. You force him into help, and that's what this run defense did, especially with Vince Williams, these linebackers. They controlled the line of scrimmage, but they attacked the line of scrimmage at such a high degree that made it effective. And I always love I say this all the time, penetration, number 1 killer in the running game. Look what that does. You take on these 2 guys, and now Bush back here is free, and the runner is defined. He has to stay here, doesn't have options. And that is really hard from a runner's perspective in running the football when penetration happens. So these 5 linebackers were really effective. This next play, though, I'm telling you, probably makes the most sense to me of how prepared they were. When you have a tight end who backs up like this, and then he's going to go in motion, I want you to watch this. Vince Williams is going to go in motion before the tight end. Just watch this for a second. I mean, this tells you somebody, okay, why was he going? Here's why, from tendencies and understanding what they were doing. But that's just part of it. He's going to attack this run. Because of this formation, that motion was probably a good indicator to them that they're going to run the ball from it. And watch him. Man, he's at the other side of the line of scrimmage, knocks off this blocker. Now this runner is defined, and you got all of this other help to get after the run. I mean, it was outstanding from a schematic standpoint. I thought from the run aspect, they did a heck of a job of not only knowing when they're going to run. I mean, look at that. When you come across before the tight end, then you hit the line of scrimmage, you're in the backfield, you knock him off, and now everybody can swarm to the football. You give up a yard or 2, that's not a big deal. You get them at the back of the line of scrimmage, that is a big deal. Now it's 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10. Whole different scenario versus 2nd and 10, 2nd and 4. So from a schematic aspect, those 5 linebackers played a big role in their success in stopping the run.
Now, is that something they can use against other teams or very specific to the Ravens?
I think it was specific to the Ravens just because they're so run heavy. Now, there's some other teams that personnel-wise you could probably implement that, and I would implement that. And the next time you see the Ravens, you're probably going to see a dose of 5 linebackers. So
All right.
It's so effective.
Perfect. Merril, thank you so much. We are going to rejoin Bob and Charlie right after this break to open our time capsules. We'll be right back.
We're in it for the outcomes. All the crap that happens in between and all the breaks we might get and all the breaks we don't get, that doesn't matter. I don't care if it's pretty or ugly. We just want to win.
How big a hole is 1 of 4?
We'll find out.
Welcome back, everyone. It is time now to open our time capsule. This has not been promising so far this season, so let's take a look at how we did today. The first one, Charlie, your prediction heading into the game, Vince Williams will have 10 tackles and 1 sack. You're gloating a little bit.
I am.
Pretty close.
Because he had 9 tackles and 1
And
sack.
1 sack.
So that was impressive. I really just felt like with Vince coming back into the lineup, he's looking to get back into the swing of things, first game action, and he's out there now really coming back off that injury, having the opportunity to make plays. I thought he did that today, and I really thought he solidified that middle of the field with Devin Bush.
All right, Labs. Depending on gimmicks will blow up in your face.
Yeah.
You aren't a fan.
No, I'm not a gimmick guy. I mean, I like the Wildcat as a
Why do
one.
you say that's a gimmick? Why are you calling
Because
that
it
a gimmick?
is.
Why are you
It
calling
is
that a gimmick?
Because it is.
Why are you calling it? Yeah, a lot of people run pretty good in the NFL and
Not
college.
lately.
Well,
Not lately.
I'm not saying they executed it all that
No,
well.
but I mean,
I got to bust your chops. If I don't do that, that's
Well,
all right.
yeah, because I know what your time capsule was. I would have rather gone after you. But anyway, I liked it against the Bengals. Little change of pace. I think it loosened things up a little bit. But against the Ravens defense, I just did not think that especially with a week to prepare for it, I thought the Ravens would not allow it to be successful, and it wasn't. And, again, I'm not a gimmick guy. I don't like gadget plays every now and then. But I also think that the key to making these kind of things work is you need to have established some things with your offense before then you can come to gadget plays or gimmicks and fool the defense because they're looking for something and maybe flowing some way or the other that your gimmick or gadget can counter that.
All right, well, let me read Merrill's because you guys were kind of on different sides here.
Well, I know where he is just based on
Well,
his
the audience
comment.
doesn't know. Merrill's going into the
Let's
game
let our
was
drum roll, please.
they will build on the Wildcat, and it is here to stay for the season.
Right, and I still think it's here to stay because, unfortunately, what Lab has said, there's some truth to as far as gadgets go, but it's not just gadgets. There's actually true principles to what they're doing as far as stretching it lateral. If you watch the Cincinnati Bengal game, in the second half, the first time they ran the football, the Steelers, what did all front seven of the Cincinnati Bengals do? They stood there. They stood there because they were so used to going laterally, they forgot to attack downhill, and here come the Steelers with the lead at them for about 12 yards. I did say they'd build on it, which they did. I just didn't predict the pick.
I'm glad you didn't try to predict that.
I still think that this version of running the football, it's an enormous burden learning how to defend it. You threaten the perimeter. Is that your staple? No, but I think it is a part of what you got skilled players that can run it. And I don't think they go away from it. I mean, just because they threw the pick, they might not create that opportunity to throw like that again. Mm-hmm. But the threat of that, the versatility of that, with the staples of what they do in the running game is a huge burden to defend. It's a huge burden to prepare for. And you take one of those type of runs that they did against the Cincinnati Bengals. And keep in mind, a jet sweep is not the Wildcat. People get that confused too. So that is not part of the Wildcat. They only ran that like 6 times against the Bengals, and after the pick, I don't think they ran it again against the Ravens. But I think you're going to see it again. I think you'll see sprinkles of it the entire year.
Here's the one thing that I do like about that. They ran the reverse out of the Wildcat. And if you press the pause button with 3 blockers out there, you would think this is a touchdown. It get 4 yards.
Yeah. That's because nobody blocked it.
Right, nobody blocked anyway.
Which is, they do get that assignment down. They have big plays. There's, people don't like it because it didn't work sometimes. It worked a lot against Cincinnati, and that's what I love about play calling people. When it doesn't work, I hate it. Well, because it didn't work.
Right.
I mean, players didn't get their assignment done right.
Teams where it's conducive to working against them, and other teams that it's not.
I won't disagree with that, but if you looked at since the Cleveland Browns threatened their perimeter. They struggled. The Ravens struggled all day long with perimeter runs, which is why I always say never underestimate a professional, because just because they struggled, but this is true in the NFL. If you struggled in something and you don't threaten that or attack that, shame on you as a coaching staff. Now, what they did a good job, they were prepared for that. They played much better on the perimeter against the Steelers than they did the Cleveland Browns.
All right, I wasn't as bold as Charlie, but I said that Juju will be the Steelers' leading receiver. I didn't go with stats, but yeah, didn't predict the ending. But I know that Mason, especially going into this game, was talking about how, the Monday night game, 3 catches for 15 yards, they needed him to be more involved in the Steelers' offense, which he was yesterday.
No, I agree with you on that. And now, how much the injury is affecting him, I don't know. But I think this is going to be something that he's going to have to manage throughout the entire year. So just, all of that is going to have to kind of play itself out. But I really like what Juju is doing. Of course, obviously nobody is anticipating turnover, and I'm sure he lost a lot of sleep last night thinking about that.
Right, and Vance was back as well. So I think maybe Juju and James getting a little time off last week trying to heal up. Vance returning to the lineup helped everybody. So as we keep saying, we will see who the starting quarterback is heading into LA. So.
And if you're a receiver, the best thing you hear leading up to the game is the quarterback saying, I got to get him involved early.
Absolutely. So it's going to be interesting to see. We'll obviously tomorrow we'll figure out what coach's press conference and what the status of all the players are. But hey, if you're a guy that's been waiting for that opportunity, maybe now this week is your chance.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining me today, and thank you as well. That's going to do it for this Steelers Roundtable. We'll see you guys next week.